This is the encounter of Abraham with these three strangers who the Midrashic tradition says are angels, in part because the parsha begins with Adonai appeared to him, to Abraham by the terebinths of Mamre, and then God doesn't say anything, right? So what's the encounter? God represented by these three figures who appear as human beings. So I'll share the screen, and I want to share with you a reading of this moment by Leon Kass. And Leon Kass, for those who don't know, is a professor of social thought at the University of Chicago. He is a conservative political theorist. He's done bioethics. He's really a great thinker in our day. And this is from his book on Genesis. So here's what he says about this moment. The adventures of Abraham soon turn explicitly political, right? He's a political theorist, and not surprisingly, for the covenant marked by circumcision is a nation-making event establishing a clear separation of Abraham and his people from the rest of humankind, right? The covenant in the last chapter, that's the beginning of Jewish particularism. At the same time as it imposes special obligations, this designation as chosen nation also threatens to arouse in Abraham's clan two deep-seated human passions, especially dangerous when felt in excess: self-love, or the love of one's own, and pride or vanity. Passions that lead men, human beings, to ignore or mistreat their neighbors. Yet, precisely because God's covenant with Abraham is ultimately for the sake of bringing the blessings of righteousness and holiness to all human beings, his privileged relationship with Adonai must not lead Abraham or his clan, us, to xenophobia, undue homophilia, or injustice. In his next adventure, immediately following his acceptance of the covenant of circumcision, Abraham is tested in this regard as Adonai appears to him in the guise of three stranger travelers who station themselves outside his tent, waiting, as it were, to discover how he will treat them. And then he continues. I'll pick up here. The text's deliberate ambiguity regarding the nature of the visitors brings the easygoing reader to attention. He apparently needs to be told that the appearance of what seems to be merely human beings is also, and at the same time, identical to the appearance of Adonai. This deliberate conflation of the divine with the human also anticipates the story's main questions. Will Abraham be able to see for himself what the reader has had to be told? Will Abraham be able to discern the presence of Adonai in the person of these strangers? Will he be able to recognize the divine within the human, and especially within those who are not his own? Kass then continues. I won't read all of his language here. He proceeds to talk about what we just read, how brilliantly Abraham does that, how he welcomes the guests, all the alacrity with which he proceeds, and the care and sensitivity to their feelings, and how he offers them food. I'm going to pick up here at the bottom in the bold. Abraham, who in Egypt experienced what it feels like to be a stranger in a strange land, passes his first post-covenant test with flying colors, treating the stranger guests with extraordinary hospitality and magnanimity. Becoming a member of the chosen tribe does not require indifference to the needs and concerns of outsiders. On the contrary, as Abraham shows so graciously, the willingness to walk before God becomes the ground of treating all human beings with the respect and justice that the new covenant with the seed of Abraham was instituted to promote. Hospitality towards strangers recognizes the importance of moderating, even while preserving, the distinction between the same and the other, between one's own and the alien. It may seem strange to suggest that exclusive and sectarian communities, if they are to be decent and just, depend radically on acknowledging the existence and dignity of the broader human community, most of which they exclude. Yet, if a community is to carry God's new way, and especially as a light unto the nations, the otherwise arbitrary and largely conventional division of mankind into heterogeneous sects or associations must pay homage to the non-arbitrary and natural sameness of the human species and its dignified place in the created order. What he's saying here is that the very first lesson post-covenant, meaning the moment that we are distinctively Jewish, marked by the covenant of circumcision in chapter 17, the very first lesson is that universality is an essential aspect of Jewish particularity. And I want to say this last paragraph that I'm leaving on the screen so we can see it. We might say, based on what he's saying, that Zionism, right, the exclusive and sectarian community or country, depends radically on acknowledging the existence and dignity of the broader human community, i.e., including and especially here, the Palestinians. We are dependent on that. It's an essential part of what makes, quote, Zionism, a Jewish state, actually Jewish, is that it recognizes the dignity of those outside of the Jewish covenant with God, right? We'll come back to this. I just want to point out, because we'll come back to it in a minute, if you look at the Chumash and you look at the second word on the page, it's in the Hebrew, it's the second word of verse 9. The word is elav. Note that there are all these markings over it. There are these three little diamonds at the top of the word, and there's a little asterisk that sends us to a footnote. Those three little diamonds represent dots that are in the Sefer Torah. So in the Torah scroll itself, whenever every Torah scroll, as it's written, there are three dots over that word. So we're going to come back to that. And I want to go back to that moment on page 101, verse 9, where I pointed out the orthographic convention of the Sefer Torah, that there are these dots over the word elav. So what's happening here? After Abraham passes the test articulated by Leon Kass, with this generous welcoming of the visitors, the narrative turns its focus now to Sarah. And the plain meaning is they, the strangers, said to him, elav, where is Sarah, your wife? Aye Sarah ishtecha. But this orthographic tradition of these three dots over the word elav causes the commentators to pause. And there is a long tradition that these little dots, when they appear over letters or words in the Torah, are a scribe's notation that something should be deleted from the Torah, right? It's like a dele mark of an editor. And the tradition is, if you have a word with dots, if more letters don't have dots than have dots, you delete the dotted letters. But if more of the letters have dots than not, you delete the letter that's not dotted. And so here they delete the lamed, and that leaves us with aleph, yud, vav. And that spells ayo, which means, where is he? And so the Midrash reads that what happened in this moment is they said first to Sarah, ayo Avraham, where is Abraham? And then they said to Abraham, aye Sarah ishtecha, where is Sarah, your wife, right? Just as they asked him, about her, they asked her about him. Okay, all nice. Now, the problem with this is, right? Don't they know? Right? Like they know. I mean, the angels or, these men have just had this whole meal prepared by Abraham. They know exactly where he is, right? And they know where Sarah is. So why are they asking? And there are a number of answers that are given in the classic Midrash. One answer is they wanted to teach derech eretz. They wanted to teach like good manners. When you go to someone's house, you ask each partner about the other's welfare, right? Very nice. And there's a couple other different answers that are given. The most interesting one to me is that, and Rashi brings this, it's found in the Gemara in Bava Metzia, in the name of Rav Yehuda, in the name of Rav, some say Rabbi Yitzchak. The angels knew, but they wanted to prompt Abraham to tell them where she was in order to endear her to her husband. The question is addressed to Abraham. I want to say, by extension, the parallel question to Sarah, in order to evoke something in each of them about the other. Now, this is the third time in the Torah that we have the question, where is someone? This is only the third time. If you count the Midrash, it's the third and fourth time, right? Where is someone? In each case, it is either God or here God's messenger, God's angel, asking something that is already known for the purpose not of God learning the information, but for the purpose of arousing something in the person being asked, some awareness. The first instance of where is someone is Genesis 3:9. Ayeka, where are you? God says to Adam. Where are you? After Adam and Eve eat of the tree, right? God knows where Adam is. It's addressed. God wants Adam to ask, where am I? The second time is in Genesis 4:9. Hevel achicha. God asks Cain, where is Hevel, your brother? God knows exactly where Hevel, his brother, is. Cain has killed him. God wants Cain to focus on, where is my brother? And now in 18:9, it's interesting, they're all verse 9. I don't know what that means, but they're all in verse 9. 18:9, Ayo Aye. Where is Abraham? Where is Sarah? And once again, these questions are directed to each of them, not because the angels or God don't know where people are, but because seemingly they do not. What is the central problem, the central issue in this moment of the narrative? It is the problem of children. Abraham and Sarah have not had children, or at least Sarah has not had a child. Abraham had a child with Hagar, but they don't have a child together. What is the question of children about? It's about generativity. It's about a future. Do we have a future? Where is that grounded? And I want to suggest that perhaps what is the problem in this relationship, what's not generative, is that these two people do not know where each other are. And I don't mean like literally, like obviously Abraham knows where Sarah is. He just ran into the kitchen to tell her to prepare the meal. But they don't know what they're about, what's important to them, how they function, and who they are, right? Where are they? And I want to note also, what are we dealing with? The first two people who we might say are Jews. And so we have in the narrative, first, where are you in your world? Ayeka. And then the universal question, where is your brother? Right? How do you relate to the people who are not you, but other human beings in the universal sense? And then very particularistically, where is your fellow Jew? Where is your covenantal partner? This is a question about Jewish unity. Now, back to Leon Kass and forward to this moment in time and everything that is going on in our world, in Israel and Gaza, the issues of anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism and the mayoral election that just happened and the fracturing of the Jewish community. Note the order of the text, which I think is counterintuitive. Abraham passes the test of greeting the other, the outsider. Do we see the dignity of people who are not Jews? Are we concerned about them? That we not get lost only in the self-concern of the Jewish people, right? That's the first thing, going out into the larger world. We might expect, I would expect the opposite. First, get your own house in order. Figure out who you are internally, and then deal with other people outside, right? That's what you'd expect. That's kind of the natural way you think about things. And I want to suggest that the text is upending that natural order, the expected order, in order to convey the both and the mutual interdependence of these two relationships, right? Yes, it is hard to relate to the other when we are internally divided, right? If we are having internecine battles, it's very hard to focus on issues of other people. And what the text is saying, if we lose sight of everything that Leon has said, right, if we lose sight of the way that our particularism as Jews is radically dependent, he said, on acknowledging the existence and the dignity of the broader human community, then we will lose sight of each other. Ayo, aye, where is he? Where is she? Where are they? We don't know. We don't know where each other are. And so I want to say in this moment, as we are, struggling with all the uncertainty in this time, if we do not have the courage to confront honestly what Israel has done in Gaza, is doing in Gaza and the West Bank, we will lose our internal coherence there and here and between there and here. And we're seeing it happen already in so many ways, right? While this past week, while Jews in New York City and across the country were turning on each other in connection with how to vote. And I want to tell you, as a rabbi, the stuff that was like coming into my Facebook feed, the things I was hearing, the vitriol directed at other Jews, right? I got a couple of really vitriolic responses to the post that I sent out from people I have no idea who they are, never heard of them, sending me just really, like, I only got two really nasty, like, you're an utter failure, and like horrible stuff, right? And rabbis across the country were getting this on all sides, and generations were pitted against each other. What was happening in Israel? I don't know how many of you saw this. There was a delegation of rabbis from Trua here and Rabbis for Human Rights there, who went to the West Bank. People were in Israel for the World Zionist Congress. They went to the West Bank to help Palestinians harvest olives. That's all they were doing, right? Palestinian olive groves owned by Palestinians. The people needed help because harvesting the olives, and they went to show support. Jewish settlers harassed them with drones, flying like so low that it almost hit them, And then one of them did and sent a rabbi to the hospital. And then they fired ammunition, shots into the air. These are Jews in Israel firing shots because rabbis are there helping the Palestinians. Two people I know were there. One was a classmate of mine, wonderful classmate of mine, and the other is a colleague I know well and love who worked with us in the Machzor. Either of them could have been killed by Jews, right? Not by, Hamas, by Jews, by who were fired. I mean, this is insane, right? And here we're going after each other, demonizing each other for how we vote because people have different values. Where are we? Where is the other? We don't know. We don't know. And I want to say that one of the reasons that we don't know is because we have lost, as a people, our commitment to where is Hevel, your brother? Right? If we don't know where each other are, we're not going to be able to see the other. But if we refuse to see the other, we are not going to be able to see each other anymore. We are not going to be able to understand each other anymore. Right? And I'm seeing it. I had a Facebook exchange with someone I know well who's so angry this week. And he's angry at everybody. He's angry at the rabbis. He's angry at the seminaries. He's angry at all the leadership. We've all failed. Why? Because the next generation of Jews isn't committed to Israel the way he is. I have news for him. It's not because of a failure of leadership here. It's because they're looking at what this government is doing. And they're saying, this is not a Judaism that I recognize or support. Right? And it's not helpful for us to just be blaming each other. We need to be looking at what we're doing. Okay, so I want to show you one last text because this is really unbelievable what the Midrash does here. And this is the Midrash that brings this issue of the dots on the letters and reads, Ayo, where is he and where is she? And write the question because we don't know where we are. This is the very same Midrash. It then evokes a story in the book of Judges. What's the story in the book of Judges? It's the story of Devorah and Yael. So the Canaanites are oppressing the Israelites, and their army commander is named Sisera. And the prophetess Devorah is masterminding the battle against the Canaanites and against Sisera, and she's working with a Jewish general known as Barak, but she's the one leading it. And she leads this defeat of his army. Sisera flees, and he takes refuge in the tent of this woman named Yael. Who is Yael? She's the wife of Hevel HaKeni. Hevel HaKeni, right? Who is Hevel HaKeni? Apparently, right, the text tells us, he is a Kenite, a descendant of Moses' father-in-law, whose name was Chavav, and he had separated himself from the other Kenites. The Hebrew is literally Cain. He separated himself from the path of brother against brother, against those who see someone who is not me as a threat, right? He separated himself from that, and he marries this Jewish woman, Yael. Okay, what happens? Now, and Yael succeeds in killing Sisera. That's the story. Note that this is kind of a retelling of the Exodus narrative, but all of the heroes of the story are outsiders, others, internal outsiders, women, who are generally not seen as military heroes in Jewish tradition, at least at that time. Now we are, right? Internal outsiders, women, and external outsiders. The Kenite friend, Chaver, who descended from Chavav, which means beloved, Moses' non-Jewish father-in-law, right? Who has married Yael. So, and then we get the Song of Devorah, which is here it's Devorah and Barak singing. It's like Az Yashir Moshe, the Song of the Sea. And in that song, there is a line about Yael, who succeeded in killing Sisera. Most blessed of women be Yael, wife of Hevel the Kenite. Most blessed of women in tents. Our midrash about Sarah, ayo ayeh, it doesn't say to him, it means they asked her, where is he, right? The very next thing the midrash says, it's the same section of the midrash, focuses on the answer, she's in the tent. And they bring this line, Yael is more blessed than all the women in the tents. What does this mean? They go on to say, she's more blessed than either the generation of the wilderness, according to Rabbi Eliezer, or she's more blessed than the Imahot, according to Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman. Why? Because they had children and they built up the world, they sustained the world. But what use would it have been to them? For without Yael, they all would have been destroyed. It's an amazing midrash. This is for all kinds of reasons. Like we could study this midrash for feminist reasons quite apart. But what I want to say today is the example of childbearing, the future, is being used here as emblematic of a narrow vision, of a vision that is not both and either or. The idea that there can be one and only one role for women, one and only one way for women to contribute, to be good, to be valuable, and that is to have children. That's our role in securing the future. And this midrash comes and says, well, actually, no. Actually not. Right? It's terrific to have children and it's essential to securing the future. But guess what? Without Devorah and Yael, Devorah the prophetess, Yael who, right? Without women actually stepping into public life and playing these roles, all that building up and having children would have been destroyed. It's not just about women. It's an emblematic of a larger way of seeing the world, a larger way of envisioning what secures a future, what helps us be generative, that there are lots of different ways to be a good Jew, to serve the Jewish people, to relate to the other, even an other who is scary and perhaps threatening. Yes, we need a military, and we need bridge builders and relationship builders and peacemakers. We need people to go help people pick olives. We need people to stand with someone who might be a little scary and try to educate and teach. We need all these roles. We need people who alert us to real threats and people who alert us to real opportunities and people who alert us to our moral obligations and failures. And usually all of those things are one in the same moment, in the same time. Right? Ayo aye. Hevel achicha. Hayeka. These are deeply integrated questions, all interdependent. Where is your covenantal partner, your fellow Jew? Where is the non-Jew vis-a-vis you? And where are you? They all depend on each other. And generativity, having a future, depends on our courage to ask them.